First, blow air onto the surface panel using a dust gun to remove all residual sanding dust. When blowing air to the surface, close the air gun to the surface to remove dust from the pinholes. Use a sprinkling can to spray degreaser onto the sanded zone and wipe the surface with a clean cloth before the degreaser gets dry. Plaster the surface as per reverse masking method to avoid step forming on the coated surface during priming. Be careful not to fold the masking paper when you perform reverse masking. Wipe the surface with an adhesive dust cloth to remove dirt and dust. Apply the first layer of Midway primer to the entire area until a wet coating is formed in the zone. The first spraying may be applied only to the putty zone. The first layer of Midway primer will also fill the small pinholes on the surface, and sufficient primer shall be applied to achieve gloss enough to reflect the fluorescent lamp. It is recommended that the subsequent primer be sprayed in the big zone before small zone. Each time Midway primer is applied later, the application zone shall be reduced layer by layer. The flash drying time of 10 minutes shall be reserved in the process. Care must be taken to move the spray gun to create a smooth edge and allow the coating to have a suitable solvent volatilization time, and the Midway primer shall be applied to the zone protected by the reverse masking paper. Confirm the effect after application of Midway primer, and fill up any pinholes and sanding paper marks by local spray. Instructions for a spray paint application. 1. The coating applied to the edge of the masking paper may result in steps formed between the Midway primer and the old coating, which may lead to damage to the surface during grinding. 2. Applying Midway primer outside the grinding zone may cause the coating to peel off. 3. The primer shall be sprayed from large area to small area, or the adhesion of the primer coating will be poor. 4. Insufficient flash drying time tends to cause runs or pinholes. Usually, a 10-minute curing time shall be reserved. Otherwise, pinhole defects may occur. Perform forced drying using infrared heat-up lamps and follow the drying time and temperature as specified by the manufacturer. Check for pinholes or grinding traces on the surface of the primer in a well-lit place. Fill the holes and traces, if any, with a small amount of putty to fill the defects, and conduct application by erecting the scraper as per thin putty coating method. If there is no problem, the step of putty repair can be skipped. Dry the repair putty after application. There are two grinding methods. One is mechanical grinding, and the other is manual grinding. In practice, two methods shall be applied in combination with that ground surface of the panels. Mechanical grinding. With a double-acting grinder, the grinding speed is high, so it is suitable for large area grinding or trimming slightly uneven surfaces. High technology is required when grinding a narrow surface or complex shape. Manual grinding. Grinding using a grinding plate aided by sanding paper or using a sponge sanding paper suitable for parts with arrow surface or complicated surface shapes. The working efficiency of manual grinding is relatively low. Grinding Midway primer and nitrocellulose putty may be performed as per manual grinding method using number 320 sanding paper and grinding block, or using double-acting grinder fitted with number 320 sanding paper. Grinding the primer zone using abrasive blocks helps to repair surface shapes and improve smoothness. When manual grinding is over, affix P500 dry grinding sanding paper to the grinding head and adjust down the grinder to a proper low speed to obtain a smooth coating. Move the grinder horizontally, obliquely, and vertically to grind the edge of the Midway primer. Hold the grinder and conduct grinding in a direction from midway primer to the old coating. Do check the smoothness of the edge of the midway primer during grinding to ensure that the surface is smooth and that there is no steps at the edge of and around the midway primer. Ensure that the putty or steel panel surfaces are not exposed, and apply the midway primer over again if yes. Use slightly coarse sanding paper to perform rough grinding, and then use fine sanding paper to perform fine grinding so as to improve the grinding efficiency. Grinding shall be made from midway primer to the old coating, and the grinding zone shall be reduced as much as possible during local spraying. After the application area of midway primer is ground, select grinding method as per the type of construction the subsequent topcoat process. Grind the surface to remove all textures of the old coating. For single process plain colors, select P40 sanding paper for grinding. For double process aluminum paint and 3-process nacre lacquer, select P500 sanding paper to grind the surface. Use sponge sandpaper to manually grind the parts that cannot allow the use of double-acting grinder. Edge area of the panel can be ground with the aid of gray scouring pad or grinding cream. If some parts still have luster, this means these parts need to be ground until they have no luster. After the midway primer zone is ground, use number 2000 sanding paper or scouring pad or grinding cream plus grinding cream to grind the sprayed zone at the splices. If some parts still have luster, continue grinding till they get dull. Grinding zone for midway primer zone shall be reduced as much as possible. After the midway primer grinding is over, use scouring pad and grinding cream to grind the sectional transitional repair area. Ensure that the coating surface is dull. For zones requiring transition, use grinding cream to grind the surface till the appropriate transition zone is reached. To perform local repair, the coating at the transition spray parts will become very thin. Thus, retain the texture of the original coating to simplify the final repair.